about the airport
Thanks,
budget. And is that going to be you, Spencer, or are we going to have Scott? or-
We have Airport Manager Scott Cruz here, as well as the Chairman, Dennis Olson, and I think that they're going to give you a briefing on what they're all doing out at the airport. Their operational budget, we kind of run the books for them, as well as the operational side, but they have a lot of projects going on, so they're here to give you an update.
Scott, if you'd want to come to the podium and present your budget, appreciate it.
This is all new to me, you guys, so bear with me. What do you want to know about the projects, or what is it? Where do you want to start?
I would just start off with how your standard operational procedures are funded, combination of city and county taxes.
Okay.
And then just what you guys do operationally. And then talk about those big projects that you guys got going is what I would recommend.
Okay, well, our forecasted budget for 2023 on general property tax, I guess we got at 80,000. County mills, we got another 0.25% increase this year, so that should go up to about 162,000. State airline tax, 9,000. Landing fees for SkyWest, about 56,200. Bemidji landing fees, 2,700. Our lot lease fees run around 29,600. And the city lot fees, about 40,000. And we've got some farm revenue, $6,400 for our hayland lease. Terminal lease for SkyWest, about 114,000 a year. TSA lease, about 21,000. Fuel reimbursements, we fill the SkyWest ground equipment, and they usually reimburse us that fuel. Estimated at about 4,000. We just sold $9,000 worth of assets, and then we should have a couple $1,000 coming back from the state aeronautics for our intern. As far as projects go, we've got a new expansion going on for the terminal. The projected cost is going to be somewhere around $8-9 million. We don't know yet for sure what's going to happen there. That'll be bid, I think, in September. And then we were also planning on a new RFSRE building, snow removal equipment, fire station combination building. I believe that was projected at around $4-5 million. And we have that $16.8 million from the CARES grant that we received kind of on an oops, but they didn't take it away. So that's how we're planning on funding these projects. And then there's also about a $3 million apron taxiway project that we had slated on there too. And if bids come in the way we're kind of thinking, the engineers and us, we're not going to be able to do them all. We've also kind of come to grips with the fact that we're not going to get to do them all. So we've kind of planned on coming up a little short there. Everything is rising, as you all know. The price of everything's gone up, and it's just not a good deal. So that's kind of where we sit project-wise. We also get annually $150,000 in entitlements, which is geared towards projects, and $159,000 we're going to get for the next 5 years in entitlements because of the bill grant, I believe it was. But again, that money's geared toward projects that, improving the airport and whatnot.
We can't just use that money.
No, unfortunately. So that's kind of where we're sitting with our projects and our income.
Mr. Cruz, would you just want to give the commission an update on how things are going with the airlines? And we know that they've reduced service because of pilot shortages and whatnot. And there's hopes that, we've got a long-term sustainable solution in the works. You want to just give an update as to what you know at this moment and explain that to the commission, please?
Well, actually right now, SkyWest has worked through a lot of their pilot problems and are still working through that. They're trying to set up a charter company to where they can fly the CRJs with just 20 seats and call it a charter, where they can fly into some of their other EAS airports and And by doing so, they're able to get, like, instead of two 1,500-hour pilots, they can have one 1,500 and one 750-hour. And they'll use that charter service to build hours for these 750-hour pilots to get them up to 1,500 and move them into captain's places. They're still working on getting that going through the FAA. Currently, Devil's Lake is they've actually increased our round trips to 14 a week. Instead of reducing our service, they've actually increased them. And they have no intention, even if they do the charter, to service the Devil's Lake Jamestown route with less than the 50 seat. They're going to use the full seat CRJ. So we're not on that list for going to the charter route, which is great for us.
Yours,
I'd like to add to that, Scott's been instrumental in negotiating with Daniel Belmont, the head man from SkyWest, to see that it didn't happen. And we had other issues like fueling where Scott got them to change their flights where one flight will come to Devil's Lake first, then to Jamestown, back to Denver, and another flight will come to Jamestown, Devil's Lake, and then back to Denver. So both fuelers at both airports get about the equal amount of business.
Made it fair
passenger
for
level's been high. It looks like it by the cars that are out there.
Yeah, our boardings are doing, not, of course, not where we'd like them to be. You know, we'd obviously like them higher, but I think we've been hitting right around 600 a month, or close to that, which is great. What did we say? We needed about 880 a month, I think, to reach our goal. If we reach 8,000 boardings annually for 2 years, we get another $600,000 in entitlements at the airport. If we hit 10,000, our goal, we would get $1 million a year in entitlements, which is, you know, great money for the airport. You can do a lot of improvements with that. So that's why we just try and stress we want as many to fly local as we can get, because it's huge money for us. You know, it would be a great benefit. But the airline, they're doing great. They're really easy to work with and talk with, and they've done a lot of out of the box thinking in order to come around and solve a lot of their problems. So we're hopeful. Other than that,
When they were talking about closing or discontinuing services, that it came out that they couldn't leave unless they found somebody else to take their place.
Correct.
So is there a RFP do they have to rebid the routes every so many years type of thing?
their contract, we have a contract with them through June of 24. So they're bound to that until then, unless we can find a replacement carrier, which we're no longer actively seeking because basically there's none out there. And they've worked through most of their issues so far, at least, you know, immediately they're doing great. You know, they used to have a crew here in town where when they came in at midnight, that crew got off, went to a motel, and the crew that was here in town took the plane out the next morning. Well, now that they're coming direct out of Denver and making the loop, they don't leave that crew in town anymore. So that frees up that crew to get on another plane. And by adjusting schedules and, you know, whatever else they've done, they've freed up a lot of their crew. So that's helped with their shortage. And they've just done a lot of outside thinking and done well.
Which is super. If it was worst case scenario, if nobody applies for the route in 2024, could that happen type of thing, or is that?
SkyWest has already intimated to us that they're
Yeah.
not on rebidding it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they definitely want to stay here if they're able, you know, so that it's all a matter of what's going to happen with the pilots and whatnot. So
We-
hopefully it keeps going.
We've actually talked to federal DOT and have them put a hold on to keep SkyWest. Now, we could sign a waiver, which would mean we could go to a single engine plane with a 9 passenger. Most likely with routes to Bismarck, Bismarck and Minneapolis. And but the thing is, once we sign that waiver, then with no long, you'll never see a jet service in Devil's Lake again. So we need to keep SkyWest here, and they're doing their best. They said they love Jamestown Devil's Lake route because it's profitable.
Okay.
They want to stay here as bad as we want them here.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, you don't hear that side of the story.
Right, right.
Mayor Mo, members of the commission, I just would want to note too, in the deliverable here for the airport, you're going to see FAA funds and state funds, the actuals on the 2021. It's hard to project these numbers moving forward, but as far as the 2021 actuals, that's the best communication I can give you as far as what we have on record at the moment. So, and I've looked in the past of how it's been communicated to you guys, and it seems like in the past, and then zeros for the future, and then update you as it goes along. So that's what we're trying to do here. And just want to communicate that to you.
I don't know if the commission is aware of this, I'm sure you are, but when we started this CARES program, we had to come to the city and ask for a letter of credit. And we started out with $1 million letter of credit. And then it needed to be increased to 2 million. Terry was okay with that. We just signed off on an addendum where some of the money that's been paid to Mead Hunt for the project coordination and development will be coming forthwith. So
I don't,
say the check's in the mail, but it should be coming pretty soon. It's over 2 million. So.
yeah, 2.239 million. And that's going to be, I think that was all of the project costs,
All of the project costs.
I believe.
And you're gonna
That
get
will come back to the city.
most of the projects done this year, you think, or
No, our next summer, we're gonna be busy with all of the projects.
what's next summer? Okay.
They're hoping to break ground on the terminal expansion this fall. And we were also hoping to do the ARP SRE building, but depending on how the bids come in, whether we're going to get to do them or not.
So what are you really hoping to get accomplished?
The terminal,
Just the terminal?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The terminal will be pretty much a go by fall.
The problem is with us with this CARES money, we have to use it by the 1st of July of 24. So
It has to be all spent and accounted
Be
for.
spent After that, they get it back if it isn't spent.
Hmm.
One of their little guidelines. And it took an extra year for them to tell us that we could use it. We sat on it for 14 months. Then they finally said you can spend it. So now we're trying to fast track all the projects. So next summer is probably going to be crazy at the airport. And that's why it's really hard to develop an accurate budget because everything's going to be changing.
And with the construction, you're still gonna be able to fly in and out of here?
Yeah.
Impact your flights.
The terminal will be built in phases.
Okay.
So hopefully there'll be some disruption, but not, hopefully not a lot.
Okay. Any questions? Well, thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Lake Region Narcotics. Thank you.
Mayor Mo, if I could just introduce here Mr. Zahn. Currently, with the JAG grant that they got, we've been coordinating, communicating with our changes in the auditing department, trying to get caught up on reporting for the grant that he's working on. And I think that they've had a couple of conversations with our police department as well as the county on how they could think about structuring things moving forward as far as funding. But I think it's really important just to note that in this budget, once we give preliminary approval, we can't increase anything, we can just decrease. And so it's just important that what's communicated is kind of the status quo moving forward, but I think they have some other stuff in the works, but I just want to make sure that we budget the money there if necessary. And so then we'll welcome Mr. Zahn just to come up and give a briefing.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for supporting the task force. Been very busy and you guys have been very supportive of helping us out. Most of our money, like you said, our operating money comes from the JAG grant, the lottery. It's like when you go play pull tabs, that's where our money comes from. And we put that in, it's a year ahead of time, like it's due on August 2nd for next year. And like last year, we were around 62,000. That's for, pays for vehicles, gas, office supplies, equipment, certain kinds of equipment. Certain equipment we have to buy out of the money we seize from the drug dealers, basically. Like I can't buy bullets or vests or stuff like that out of that fund. There's certain limits on it. So we do operate a little bit off our asset seizure account, or any overages we'll use out of there. All the salaries are paid by the first item, which we got a shortage on now. So my plan is, it's in the works, is to take the cities, because like you take the cities right now, they're paying 70 grand, while with benefits and everything, like we took Ray is over there now with all the benefits, he's up to about 88,000 for, so we're gonna have a shortage there. So the plan is to take Ray's, the city person and the county people. Well, the city, I was gonna do it like everywhere else in the state on the task forces. They don't have a budget for salaries. The city hires the guy and just puts him on the task force, or the person, I should say. Same with the counties, like you take like Grand Forks, for example, there's like 10 people on their task force. They don't have a budget for salaries. They just have, okay, this guy's coming over, and the city pays all the wages and stuff. And the task force doesn't really deal with wages at all, which is hard for me to deal with wages when I don't even know what the guys make on the task force. So I've had the same conversation with the county. And what I want to do is take your person, put him in Joe's budget, and just put that money in his budget, and him do the wages, and just send over whoever he's going to send over. It's so much easier than trying to guess what they're making every year. And then we don't get this shortfall like we're probably going to have this year. And I'm doing the same thing with the county. They're just, the other two are paid by, or employed by Ramsey County. And how it works with them is Ramsey County pays for one in full, and then they pay for half of the second one. And then there's 4 counties that pay the rest of that salary, but they're just going to absorb those 2 people into the sheriff's budget and pay the salaries out of that. So then I won't have any of these wage things on our budget for 23. That's what I'm hoping for. But I understand we have to have this on there in case this falls through, if it doesn't work. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. It would streamline it better where we're not running into this, because when they get raises, unless I ask the person working there with me, I work for the state. I don't know when those guys get their raises and all that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
What's your
I
thoughts
think
on that, Spencer?
Well, I think it just goes, we have this partnership across different organizations, and I think, we should aspire to communicate and be a little bit more coordinated moving forward. And like he had said, nothing that he's talking about is a done deal yet. And so it's all in the works. And we just want to make sure that we have this in place should that not come to fruition. As far as the city's contribution, if something were to change, we transfer out to this fund from the general fund. And so we can always, just at the end of the year, we just don't transfer money. We keep it in our general fund to pay those expenses if that were to happen. So that's what I would take away from this. And I think a good conversation on how we can create a long-term sustainable system as far as funding for this really important aspect of our law enforcement.
And you say that works with other counties or
That's how
cities?
everybody does it in the state. We're like the only place who doesn't do it that way. It's kind of confusing here
Does it
because
work for you?
Yeah, it does. Travis and I had been in conversation about this many times. In all reality, the city, since it's been running the budget, they pretty much run all the money through the city in this way. It was set up years ago. Normally if we had a change in the per person's salary, it would just be compensated through the city automatically. So you really didn't see the change, nor had my budget been affected by that. Us absorbing that is not really absorbing it. All we're really doing is paying our people like we should be paying.
The money's being spent from the city one way or the other,
Yeah.
whether it's in the police department's budget or we're transferring out somewhere else.
So the city did the payroll part of the task force guys in?
Yeah.
Their checks came from the city.
Well, the county one, see, this is what makes it so confusing, is the way it was set up is the county pays the 2 county ones, and then they send a bill to the city for the wages. this would just streamline it so much, make it so much easier for everybody to, like, the county just takes care of theirs and the city takes care of their, you know what I mean? So we're not, I don't know. I don't know why it was set up that way. That's the way that it was set up, though. I didn't really have much say in that. But I think it would be it's just streamlines it so much easier that you're working for the county, you just have them pay it and instead of sending a bill to the city, and you know what I mean? To me, it's more work and it's easier. And then the county knows when they get the raises, what they need to, if they have to ask these other counties for more money, then so be it. But
I think years ago, we only had one narcotics officer. And so they were paid by all different entities to fulfill for one employee. So they had to put it under one umbrella. They decided to keep it under the city. And so I think the city paid for half of the one and everybody else paid the rest of his salary and benefits. Well, as time evolved, we've kept adding more narcotics guys. We absorbed the guy completely. Well, then it just stayed there and nothing's really changed. So this is just a way for us to revamp it, put it into the future.
How do you determine county versus city though? What if,
well, the city is one of Joe's guys. He just sends over there right now. It really doesn't change.
let's say you have a county officer leave though, and then we're gonna bring another city cop, or is it required to
No.
be 2 county and 1
Yep,
city?
it's required to have it that way.
Okay.
Basically how it works is if there's the city guy leaves, Joe opens it up to the guys that work for him to see who wants to come over. If we haven't ran into where we haven't found where nobody wants to come over yet, I don't know what we would do then, but same with the county. The county, they open it up to the county employees. We haven't had any, I know when we got Rich coming over, we hired him, kind of recruited him a little bit, but because he worked here before, and he hired him directly to the county, but he was still a county employee coming over. So we haven't had people like jumping ship back and forth yet, because if the county makes less than the city, and I think the wages are pretty comparable right now with the county and the city, or the sheriff tries to make them comparable if they're not. So we don't have a lot of that going on.
So sounds easy, but who has to approve it then, if we're gonna make this type of?
Well, the county I've already got, I just talked to Candy and she just said, yeah, we'll do it. So that's the county part's taken care of already. So it's just the city talking to you guys today. I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts are on it, what you want to do.
I think it would I think it would be a benefit, just given that we have other county partners as far as Benson, Towner, and Nelson. I think it would just benefit if Mr. Zahn and the chief and myself, as well as the sheriff and maybe another county rep, just put our heads together and make sure that we're all on the same page with how we want to do this moving forward.
Yep.
I think that would be a good conversation just to have. So
Yep.
everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, because since the other ones are paying for that part of the Ramsey County one, those fees would go to Ramsey County and get sent there instead of here. They're paying like $10,000 a year for the other 4 counties. So that 40,000 would go to the county to pay for, because that person's getting paid by the county anyway, even though these guys are paying for half of that person. And the county is already talking about absorbing that person and wanting the other counties to get their own person. So this would make it easier for you guys not dealing with that aspect of it. I don't know if that's ever going to happen because a lot of these other counties don't have the money to do it. But the conversation's been going on for a couple of years now, hasn't it? At our board meetings where Ramsey County would definitely take that second person over at any moment. But the problem is the other counties, the 4 counties, don't have enough money to hire another one. And the plan with that would be to station that person like in Langdon or Candu or Lakota or somewhere, the other counties we cover. They just don't have the money to do it at this point. So, but it could happen down the road. It's been in conversation for a couple of years. So I don't know where that's going to go. It seems like we got a BIA person on the task force now too, and they're employed by BIA and just attached or signed to us. they have an office in there, so it's very helpful. Stell, who worked for the police department, got hired with BIA as their drug person, and we give them an office to work out of. And it's very helpful to have that aspect on our task force, so. And we don't have any, we don't even buy him equipment or anything. BIA gives him cars and equipment. He's just assigned, so. And that's how the wages are looking. So I don't know I don't even know how we go forward with, if we have to get it approved or voted on or whatever you guys want to do, or just slide it over.
You don't need to vote. You're gonna have your little meeting first before. we have to
Yeah,
deal
I
with it.
think that's it, that we need to get our ducks in a row a little bit more on this and have a clear strategy moving forward
Mhm.
and just align as partners to make sure that we're on the same page.
So then the next part is the grant. I'm moving the grant over to the county, and Candy's gonna run it over there. And it's just more, it's the same thing. It's just more streamlined, and they have 2 people over there and more of the, I think, I don't know, it's just, I'm just moving it over there just because. So that's I put in for this year, it's gonna be about 72,000. That's because I'm putting in for a camera system that cost about 12 grand. So, but we need it. You can put it in a vehicle and just run it remotely from your phone. It's pretty sweet. So, but it'd help in surveillance so much where we can just set our van up and I could run it, from my house if I want to, or my office, but it's pretty sweet. But that's all the operating stuff. And then we're going to start leasing vehicles too, because the grant will pay for leases, but they won't pay for actual vehicles anymore. They want you to lease them, which is, I don't agree with it, but that's how they do it. And then the asset seizure account, I'm going to move out of the city once I don't have it approved yet from the board. I'm going to start a checking account so all the chiefs and sheriffs can log into it and look at it at any time, because they're the one who's supposed to have the oversight over it because of the state law that they changed with our asset seizures a couple of years ago. It's just easier for me to put it in that checking account and write the checks. They can log in and look at what is spent and what's in there at any moment. So with the app on their phone, it just makes it easier. So eventually I'm going to move it out of the city's budget, probably by the end of the year. I have to have a board meeting in a couple of weeks to get it approved, but I already talked to the bank about it and figured out what I need to do with it. So that's going to get moved too. So there's a chance next year we won't have anything in the city budget other than your person in Joe's budget. So.
That works.
So that's where we're at. We've been very busy. We're cross deputized with the BIA now too, so we can go out there and actually arrest people and take them to the jail in Fort Totten, and it's very helpful because when the drugs are regional, it's not Devil's Lake, Ramsey County. It's a lot of the big dealers are out on the res, and they take care of that problem. We got to get rid of the lines, and we got to be able to go where we need to take care of it. So they're also starting a task force out on the reservation too. So maybe that will keep us from going out there as much as we are, but we have certain rules for going out there. We're only going after the big dealers. We don't go out there every time they find a pipe or something like that. So, because we could spend every day out there. So, you guys have any questions, I guess?
No, appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thanks for doing what you do, sir.
All right, thanks.
Well, now it looks like water revenue.
Yeah, we've got our enterprise fund here, and number one, just want to thank the team that we got sitting over there. I think about one thing my old boss was always sure to make clear was anything important that happens in the city of Devils Lake happens outside this building. Is my garbage being picked up on time? Is the water coming out of the faucet? My sewer is not getting backed up. The streets are getting plowed. Those are things that matter on a day-to-day basis. to the citizens of Devil's Lake, and they all happen outside. And those guys over there are the ones leading the departments, doing all the work. So big hats off to them. And oftentimes, silence is a reward for a job well done, and they're tough, gritty jobs. So a lot of long time city employees as well, sitting over there. So I want to thank them. One of the things you're going to see here, just start off with the water revenues. We're projecting a kind of a flat from the 2021 actuals. And the one thing you're going to see as well going through here is, especially in the water and the sewer and the sanitation department, is we changed some of the percentages as to where funding for all our personnel is coming out of, just to try more accurately reflect the time spent on each of their responsibilities and where it should be. At the end of the day, water comes out of water, sewer comes out of sewer, and sanitation comes out of sanitation. So it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, make a big difference, but it more accurately reflects in the budget. So just going through here, water distribution, they're looking to, Joel, you want to talk about your strategy with gravel and what you guys are hoping to do in 2023 with the gravel?
Well, we like to keep a bigger reserve out there, a bigger pile. So if we have problems in the winter time with water breaks and stuff, we can dig into it and get unfrozen gravel to put in the street, because then it won't settle as bad.
So
I think the street's like their gravel pile in town now, so I need a little bit more gravel to keep the pile.
And just increase the gas and oil budget as well, just given gas prices and where they're at. Hammer and Wells, it's pretty self-explanatory, nothing big change in there. One thing that they are doing across the board in almost all the departments is upgrading their SCADA system. Mike, could you just give the commission kind of an overview of what the SCADA system does and why you need to upgrade it?
Sure. The SCADA system for us, it stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So basically, it's a computer monitoring system of different aspects of our public works infrastructure, namely the water system and our storm sewer system, dike system, pump stations, as well as the sanitary sewer system. The computer's monitoring is what's the level in the water tower. Hey, the water tower's low, water tower, call the water plant, I need water, send water up here. That's the SCADA system is letting Joel's crew know, is the system operating properly? And if it's not operating properly, they get a call, goes on their cell phone and says, hey, there's a malfunction here. The sanitary lift station's at a high level. The guttering is hot, whatever that error is, they get that. And we have a good system. The system needs to be updated. It's just like everything when you're dealing with software computers, you have to stay up, otherwise we fall behind a little bit. We've been looking at trying to update our SCADA system, but we want to update it as part of a potentially larger project with a booster station on our raw water side. And so we've been looking at that a little bit, but honestly, when Joel calls the techs that are working on the SCADA system, whenever that phone picks up, it's, you're looking at $1,000. And it's very expensive. So we got to make sure that we have adequate dollars there, because the SCADA system is so important for us. That we have adequate dollars to make sure it's maintained.
Thanks, Mike, for that overview. And then a water treatment plant, you'll see that we just transferred one employee there, full-time expenditure for the first time. So put their personnel costs in that section. And just increase the tools and equipment budget just a little bit for this 1 year. And the SCADA maintenance there with the 10 grand. So for each of these, water, sewer, and sanitation, there's a third of some of the costs that we have at City Hall, which, supports those departments. And so a third comes out of each water, sewer, sanitation to go back into the general fund. And we keep track of that, and I can point that out to you, because that's attached to the general fund as well. Now, at the end of the year, we're projecting a net positive, so that's good. As far as sewer revenues, we insert the 4.5% of our sales tax in there currently, and sewer collections projected there at the 810. And Mike, you want to talk about the pumps and the reimbursements and how that typically works with the sewer department?
If you look at sewer revenues, there are some reimbursements there. The reimbursements that you see are really associated with the agreement that we have with the county. When the dike was being developed in the late 90s, there was an adjustment to the alignment of the dike that offered more protection to the county and didn't really offer any additional benefit to the city. If you look at specifically the city limits and city proper, even though we benefited from helping out our neighbors. So there's an agreement that the county has with the city, and it's called the West Loop Agreement. And basically with that agreement, the county agreed to pay for the additional costs associated with operation maintenance of the dike with this change in alignment. And so when you look at some of those pump stations, Highway 20 pump station, the Highway 20 mini pump station, Creel Bay, Lakewood, Country Club, when you see that reimbursement, that's really a depreciation number that's supposed to be getting billed to the county that they pay us back for. They also pay us for some costs associated with our maintenance of that section of the pavement. That's where you're seeing that reimbursement. In our case, we're calling it the reimbursement. In some cases, you see it as depreciation because we're depreciating those pump stations and they're paying that depreciation share.
Then moving on to so you got the revenues there, sewer operation expenses, again, just changed up some of the employee percentages that are come out of those funds. And, budget is just slightly a little bit more for gravel. And put an extra larger line item for some equipment maintenance that they're working on, as well as some safety equipment that they're looking to get. Storm sewer, pretty much all pretty much similar there, going through. And then the sewage treatment expenses, looking to purchase some additional safety equipment. And as well as if you look at the equipment maintenance, they've got an additional, a $45,000 expenditure. What's the maintenance for that again? Mike, can you remind me?
Yeah, Joel's hoping to do some repairs on the upper part of our harvester for lemon. Those units are getting old. They get some work on the lower end. Now there's some work on the upper end. They're very expensive units. They're real specific for that system. And so there's some work required on the upper end.
And we transferred some money in from their equipment reserve to address that.
We've been putting away money specifically for a harvester. But a new harvester like we use is a little under $1 million.
How much?
$1 million.
Oh.
So we go to Grand Forks and they made a bottom part of one of those harvesters in stainless steel. And then I budgeted last year to do the top part. And with everything going up, stainless steel is just the roof was 3 times more than I budgeted. So we'll try it again this year. See if we can get the top part done.
One of the more long-term goals that we have is getting a new sewer truck, which is a pretty spendy piece of equipment. So we're trying to throw some money away here in advance to try and lessen the blow that's going to have when we have to purchase it. So we're throwing about $50,000 in equipment reserves that way right now, as well as from the water distribution part just a little bit. So it's a long road ahead on that one, and we're gonna do what we can.
I think.
When you say sewer truck, is it for like
truck.
a back end? Okay.
Cleans the sewers and sucks things up. And so that's what we use for a lot of the maintenance associated with the sewer collection system.
One of the things I think is a real safety thing, and having worked in that department, is that lift station, the main sanitary, getting rid of having to go down and rake in those grates. I
don't know
think,
how you would do that.
is there anything out there that is available to kind of upgrade? I believe that with grinder pumps and all that kind of stuff out there nowadays.
You can get silver
it would be a-
grinders that
may-
would go through.
Mhm.
But if that ever fails, it's gonna back up the whole system. And then you're looking at weekly maintenance you're gonna have to put on there anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't know of a good,
I
I'm
thought,
all for it.
an enclosed type system where it's, because it is a safety hazard,
Yeah,
without a question.
yeah, it's, it's made to go down
Hmm.
stairs. You just-
Yeah, well,
Any lift station, I don't want anybody going there by themselves, whether it's main lift or any other
I
one,
agree.
because you're working over a 30-foot hole.
Well, yes. Environmental issues too, oxygen levels.
If you hear of anything that we could do there,
I just haven't been in it for a long time, but I just always thought that that's a huge safety issue in our community, with
nobody likes
people
to do
going,
it.
and that spiral staircase is not getting any younger,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we put some stainless steel stuff up there, but that staircase is gonna be the next thing.
Yeah.
To make a spiral staircase out of stainless steel, that's probably 20 grand right there.
but those are some concerns I have, and I'd sure hate to see something bad happen,
Yeah.
but,
I'm all with you. to not go
and it's
down
all
there.
manual lift buckets above your head. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ancient.
Same with the.
we were doing that
storm, the
45
Ford
years
storm
ago.
lift.
Pardon?
Same with the Ford storm lift, you have to take gravel out of there, you
Yeah.
have 3-4 guys down there. You're never gonna, it's a hazardous job, dangerous, more than people know.
It's just something that I'd like to see researched. Don't know if there's an answer out there, but to me, in our today's times, you would think there's something out there.
Anything I've looked at has moving parts or hydraulic parts, and it's gonna need weekly maintenance. If it does fail and we don't catch it, it's gonna back up everything. That's my only concern on that.
Okay, that was just a point.
The next line that we got is in the embankment operation and maintenance expenses. This is something, this is a yearly $185,000 expenditure that most communities don't have, but we do, and we go and get the job done. And they're looking to get a 4-wheel gator sprayer, and so just the 45 for the maintenance on the harvester plus the gator we brought in from the equipment maintenance. And then just your depreciation transfers. The one thing that I'm going over here the last couple of days is if you look at where we're at in the sewer operations there, we're running a pretty decently negative number currently. And if you look at the trend where we were 2020 to 2021 projected, and here, we're going the other direction, right? We're sitting pretty good at the reserve level. We're sitting at over 30%, which is good. I think most communities or utility funds are reserved are about around 25%. So we're good there, but we might need to have a discussion on a strategy as far as rates when it goes with the sewer, and as well as what we do for rural communities, as well as here within the city of Devils Lake. So I think part of a broader conversation moving forward. I think we're good for a year here, but this will be something to continue to monitor. So any questions on the sewer, water or sewer, I would say?
So I was just gonna back up, the water collections, the 1.22 million, that includes everything from Northeast and from the Ramsey Rural, that's all figured in there? Or is that just,
That should be, but I don't have a breakdown of that particular number.
okay, that was just curious question.
And as far for sanitation, revenues standard as normal. Corey, would you want to just give an update on some of the equipment that you guys have bought, you're looking to get this year, and then chassis as far as?
Yeah, we budgeted for this year a new chassis for one of our trucks.
Can you explain what a chassis is? Because
Well, it's just the frame and the truck itself, and then we reuse the Packer body that we have on our current truck. Because the truck, we keep a truck for 7 to 10 years, and then the Packer body usually lasts a little longer. So anyway, we were gonna replace a chassis on one of our trucks this year, and I think I had $140,000 for this year for a chassis exchange. And I did some research talking with the companies and with everything going on. They basically told me we'd have no hope of getting a new chassis this year. So Mike and I had talked 2 months ago, I suppose, a month and a half. And I have a skid steer coming due to exchange, and we thought, well, maybe it'd be a good idea, since we can get that this year, that we do that, and we talked with the commission on that. Got your approval, maybe most of your approval. So I'm gonna end up getting the skid steer, I think, within about the next week and a half. And that was around 60,000. So 80 of that 140 goes back into our equipment reserve. And then now next year I budgeted for a truck chassis again. And I believe I budgeted like 160,000.
Yep.
So that's basically about the only thing I have different on my budget for the year. I think we added $4,000 in the landfill budget for having the county do some of our, there's a mile stretch of township road going to the landfill. You've probably all been out there. And since the road's used more than a township road to be used with the landfill traffic, Mike and I talked and we decided we should have a, more of a blade maintenance done on it more often. So I don't know who you'd talk to, probably Kevin, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we typically coordinate, they bid out gravel. We don't have a lot of gravel in town, so they typically bid out replacement of gravel on a certain section of roadway. And so they have that. I coordinate closely with the county road superintendent. I think the other thing that we're looking at here that may require some adjustment, Spencer, is the dollar amounts associated with gas, oil, and grease.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
there's that one,
that's
yeah.
in there. We have to adjust that according to your gas card.
Right.
That would more accurately reflect what's going on there.
I
A
would-
little bit of a change there, and then probably a little uptick on the transfer station. You have to imagine the transfer station, how many trips we're taking to Grand Forks in a week with a big semi unit, and we all know what fuel prices are. So it's just like everything else when we're dealing with the streets and stuff. We might have to do a little uptick there.
I think we've budgeted enough fuel for most of our departments in the years past, just with that cushion of knowing how fuel. So I don't think we've had an issue with when we've had an uprise of fuel costs.
Yep.
But it's something to take a look at if diesel stays at $5
Oh, yeah.
a gallon, I mean,
Yeah, we need to adjust that.
then of course our budget won't handle that, but.
Mhm.
A lot of what Mike's saying too is we need to keep better track of the fuel cost numbers, more how they pertain to each department and within my whole departments. I don't think our costs will increase. I just think we need to show where more of the fuels needed, or where the fuel's being used more than other places. You know what I'm saying?
I'm a fan of tracking costs associated where costs are.
Right.
Right, so like Spencer had mentioned when we're talking about water, we have certain costs associated with the water distribution system. So that's our pipe network, that's our water tower. We have costs associated with the treatment aspect of it. We have costs associated with getting it out of the ground and getting it to town. Really like, how much does it cost to do this? How much does it cost to do that? How much does it cost to do this? The city resident really doesn't care, because at the end of the day, they're paying to have that all done, and what's it cost to get it out of my tap? But for us, we need to know, because we have different things going on within the section where, we sell bulk water. Bulk water isn't going, not all of it, sometimes it's going through the distribution system. With the inert landfill, we want to make sure that we're on top of the inert landfill and the rates associated with inert landfill. Transfer station, garbage collection, kind of the same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're collecting the sanitation, we're bringing it out to the transfer station, loaded it up, bringing to Grand Forks, paying the tipping fees, paying the fuel. But each aspect of that work has certain costs. And it's just kind of nice to know internally where your costs are. So we're trying to do a little better job of that.
Although we're a small enough operation where with employees on vacation, employees sick, I mean, we have guys constantly multitasking and doing different jobs. So we want to keep better track of it to a degree. But I mean, it'd be impossible to get it down to the gallon or whatever, but.
And I think one of the things that I think we might do for the commission meeting on Monday is give an overview of some things that might just be tweaked or changed before preliminary approval, as well as we have a discussion too. It's not due until August 10th, so if there's further discussions you guys want to have, we can always call a special meeting, much like we're doing today, to approve the preliminary budget if you guys would like. So I think there's still a little bit of massaging that needs to be done here on the enterprise funds here. And the last item here, you'll see the water source replacement fee. So everybody's utility bill, there's a $9 fee. And it goes into this account. As you can see, it's got a pretty good balance to help offset future costs to future generations should we need to change our water source. I think we've recently done that from talking with Mike. And so
Paint the water tower white.
God forbid. Sign on it.
Sorry, Mike.
So I'll take it.
So I think with that, unless you guys have any questions, we'll move on to just a couple of the general fund right now.
Okay.
Commissioner Robbins had just kind of asked, hey, what is the mill? How does that factor into the property tax rate? And I had said, well, I think that most communities, they kind of make a graph. So what I did is I made a graph on, what your effective tax rate is on your house. A standard house that pays, standard property taxes. And the city's portion of your overall large bill is 40.42% of your house value, and then the total with all of our partners would be 1.48. And how they do this is, say you have a $200,000 house, you multiply that number by its taxable value, which is 4.5%, and then you take that number and you take that times the mill rate, which is 93.11. So a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar. So you multiply that by 0.09311, and that's the dollar amount. So, and on the next graph, I basically just took the same effective rate and I just changed it from rate to dollars. And so there you can see where we've been going as it is the City of Devils Lake and in total. No. Assuming that a house stayed the same value. If the value goes up, the end dollar amount does go up. And also having a conversation with on just our general fund projected plus minus over the years. I went back all the way to 2011, and as you can see, 2011 had a pretty 2011 to 2014. There was a lot of years we brought in a lot more revenue than we were expecting, and in subsequent years, small proposed budget negatives. As $100,000 one way or the other in the general fund is really hard to predict, especially when we bring in so much property tax or so much sales tax. And so, as you can see, the last few years we brought in our general fund balance has been pretty high given the COVID era, and so hence to spend the money that we received, we would have to. I mean, there's no way around it. You do have to go negative, being that it's all in the general fund right now. So
Correct. Okay, so that being said, is there any, because it can get confusing because you showed, I brought this stuff in from the other day, that the general fund is at like 60% of the annual budget,
Yep.
the carryover.
Yep.
And so it can get confusing. Is there any potential to keep that COVID money in a separate account, or is that?
we could transfer it all to a separate account.
And strictly for the thought, not that it's right or wrong, but just strictly for the thought that you see your general fund at 60% and then you don't remember what you spent on projects, and he's like, here we are, looks really good. And then, oh, that's right, we got these other projects that we're paying for. Because what tripped me up a little bit when I was talking to you the other day, if I get this right, I think we show a $618,000 deficit for this year.
Yep.
But 510,000 of that is going to be projects. So we're actually only 108.
108, yeah.
Whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
Our revenue.
Technically, yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you see that 600 some, you get a little sticker shock type of
Yeah.
thing if you don't have it clear in your mind.
Yeah, and we could transition that out. But if we did take all of, as an update too, we received the second tranche of our ARPA money, $568,000 and change. So I think it would combine with the 1.4 that we received plus 1.1 that we received from ARPA. In total, I would have to take a look, but if we did transfer all 2.5 million of that out, where would we be sitting, and is that a comfortable place that we want? to be. So the cool opportunity that we have right now that I see with the general fund is we can set our reserve balance to whatever we want it to be and use the chunk of, use whatever that increment is, however the commission would like to see that funded, if I articulated that well enough. Does that make sense?
I heard you, but I didn't know if it processed. So if we say we want our reserve at 40%,
Yeah.
so.
Take the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could take the difference.
So is there any point where this, like the airport said, they have to spend it or they lose it? Is there any of our funds that we're getting in that?
So with the CARES Act dollars, 1.4 million. So how the state distributed is said, give us the payroll for your licensed law enforcement. And they paid that for 1 year.
That was our
And
first.
so, yeah, and so those were costs that we were expecting to incur. We never incurred those costs. And so it's kind of like cash in hand, right?
That one has no strings attached.
That one has no strings attached. Now, the American Rescue Plan Act, these were supposed to be for hard infrastructure, water, sewer, streets. And as they were laying it out, they kept coming up with these final rules. And eventually the federal government kind of just wiped its hands clean of it and said, you don't need to show a revenue loss, but you can report it as revenue loss. So you report it as revenue loss. You may or may not have a revenue loss. And now really it's money that can be spent at the direction of the city commission.
Without any deadlines, so to speak. You just put it in your.
From my understanding and working with the North Dakota League of Cities and how it's been communicated to me, that's my understanding, yes. And so that's why when I see it all in the general fund there, we know how much we got, but we wouldn't want to spend all of it if that would put us at a disadvantaged position at that time, if we could just keep it in the general fund, if that makes sense.
Okay, I guess my mind was revolving around the fact, if we have to spend it at a certain time, what are we gonna spend it on, or not designate it for, I should say.
Yep.
Maybe it's a better term.
Yep. And that, I feel confident saying that the deadlines no longer exist
That is not there.
in effect. Now, from my understanding, from what the League of Cities just told us.
Okay, I haven't educated myself at all, so just wait, counting on somebody else to tell me.
Oh,
Yeah.
expertise.
If
So
that
if I'm wrong,
change-
if I'm wrong, you're wrong.
No, and I will double check that fact and make sure it's make sure that we're aligned with how we should be doing it. But they, I can tell you the first tranche we reported as revenue loss, and we didn't have to show a revenue loss. So that's how we did it, which freed it up for a lot of uses. So, putting it in a separate fund, I have thought about that.
And
But
that
I-
was just for
Yeah.
tracking. if it
Yeah,
needed to be
it's
extended,
putting in a
so
separate
be-
fund and tracking it. That would be one way to do it. Whether if we did transfer all of it out, whether it's a place we would want to be as far as general fund reserves, I'm not sure. And so strategically setting our reserves at a place where we want them and then doing the rest. Much like you would handle, a personal budget, right?
Correct, yeah, it's like,
You get your emergency fund, then you do whatever the rest is. So I think that's what we're where my mind is at right now with it.
all right, well, now that you explained the no strings attached thing, it seems like it's not that terrible of an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave it in there.
And we know the specific dollar amounts that we received, 595 and 568, which it was a pretty good day. It came in without a hurdle from the state, hit the bank account. And so
So you
We
think
got
your
it.
tax return?
And
we got
everybody's
it.
bank account should take a boost like that, right?
we've got it. And I'm making a couple slight changes just in the general fund, just from where we kind of left off the conversation with our engineering fees and the projects that we have, as far as the work that we do and that we bill and therefore receive as income. Those numbers lowered, and I've just made a couple other tweaks. And so again, general fund, I think it was at 618 and now it's at negative 648. So between the public building reserve transfer, paying for the siren radios, it's about negative 130.
Okay.
On it.
So, just, okay, so you this is the same report we got the other day, but just.
Yeah, just a couple tweaks, yeah, just a couple tweaks.
So if we have showed a revenue increase of 129,000, right? That would be fair.
Yep.
And
Well-
a deficit of 100, which say the number was 118 to something else? For the actual deficit? I think you just said. it a
Yeah,
second ago.
it'd be like 138.
138. So our spending has increased about $267,000 for the year.
Yeah, and I think largely due to some of the 5% costs in the cost of living that we're doing, as well as fuel costs and a couple of other items, noted items.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make that as a statement, not that I got a problem with it, but it just shows that, we've actually, our expenditures are gonna be about $250,000 more than last year.
Is there a certain percentage of those water sales to each district that we serve? Is a certain percentage going to the general fund?
The 20% of the revenues from the enterprise fund come into the general fund.
And that's only fair realistically, because the general fund, we have billing hours up here that are associated with it. You have administrative hours that are associated with things. There's engineering hours that are associated with it. So that 20% transfer is really a way to recover some of those time and efforts that are put in that you really don't see that aren't directly related. Typically in the water system, Joel's time is charged directly to water. Engineering time is not charged to water. Spencer's time is not charged to water. The billing time is not charged to water. It is in that 20% transfer out. So you kind of recover some of that.
It helps the general fund a lot.
And it helps the general fund a lot.
Yeah, because you can either put it in the general fund or you can bond it or put it in CDs.
I just remembered that last year. I didn't make waves or anything.
And so I think the one thing with the general fund is, there's been a long conversation over the past few years as far as rent and the LAC and the city's expenditures on it. And so just getting some direction from the commission as to what you'd like to see. If you want to keep the status quo at the $34,000 a year, or that increase to I think it was 56 or 59 if I forget. So those would just some direction there. One thing I will say, one thing I would just say is, so once the budget is preliminarily approved and then it's final approval in September, you can decrease expenditures, can't increase, if that makes sense. And you can decrease projected revenue, you can't increase projected revenue. So
I'll see both sides on this discussion, why we're paying rent for a building that we own. Ramsey County does the same thing. But in the discussions that they've had at the LEC, it's probably phrased wrong, not rent. It should be more of kind of like a building maintenance fund that Ramsey and the city are putting into to maintain our building. But yeah, that's a hard one. I've talked with the previous mayor on this too, because even when he was there as the head of the LAC, that was part of the budget then. He's not even sure when that it was even put into effect, that rent for PD and the county. So has the janitorial services gotten any better?
Cleans the toilets, but that's about it. But you're right, it shouldn't be called rent, it should be maintenance.
I would tend to agree with that.
And it was never an issue until 2 budgets ago or a budget ago, where we had the LEC budget meeting, and Rob put it into his budget that he was gonna bump the rent based on his he just said
The square
researched
footage,
what the
yeah.
going rate was per square foot, so he did his math, and he said this city uses this much, the county uses this much, and this is what the rent's going up to. Shane and I approved it at that budget meeting, maybe not thinking it through 100%, but we were part of the process that approved it. That came here, And that was a big red flag, you know, it's like, how can our rent be going up that much in 1 year? So that's where the big heartache came in. Had they been gradually increasing it over the last 10 years, nobody might have said anything, but it was just that big increase that caused that red flag that created a huge controversy. I look at it two different ways. You take that out, you factor it back into the budget. Without that in there, we're gonna pay for a good portion of it with our fees and whatever else it might be. It's just that it's tagged as a line item, it makes it a little more non-palatable. But I have no problem paying the 56,000 or whatever it went up to type thing, just to doesn't seem like it's worth the hassle of trying to, well, pay for it here, pay for it there, one way or another, you're gonna pay for it type thing, in my opinion.
And I agree and disagree with you. If we were getting something out of that 56, I could see it. You know, you've been fighting for how long for services and stuff back there, and you don't seem to be getting them,
I agree.
you know. Or if that's what it's taken as rent, well, then they should be getting.
So where's the money going to then?
Just into the overall budget for the LEC. But so that, with that being said, I don't know if things will change with Ron retiring or how that's gonna play out. I don't know.
I'm not
Don't
sure
want to
there
promise
either.
and under-deliver type thing.
It would be, I mean, and like you said, if it was tagged as something different and it actually stayed, you know, the 56 we pay and the 30 some that the county pays, if it stayed in a maintenance, you know, then it would be palatable. I'm torn both ways on it. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Well, I'm still kind of confused as to the direction we're going with the whole center.
I think your question is, for
Yeah,
your
but-
budgeting purposes,
Yeah.
you know this has been a problem in the past.
Yeah.
Do you budget for that amount or not?
Well, yeah, and the budget is approved as a whole entity, right? And so really the point of these conversations is to kind of get a guide from the commission as to where you guys want to see things going. And, you know, if we put the 56 in there and you approve the budget as a whole, it's there. If we put 34, it's approved as a whole. And so just it's not a specific action item. It's just a conversation to have. And it's the knowing that the timeline, we could decrease it between August and September if you guys want to have whoever would want to represent the LEC to come in, give you a further update on what they're doing and what they're thinking moving forward, and that would inform your decision making. We can do that as well and put it at that 56. And if you do want to decrease it back, you could do that. Administratively, that's a move that we have. That's a chess piece we can move.
We don't need to do any formal action. I just
Yeah.
agreed to put that in there.
Just an update for your budget thinking on the LEC too. Hoping by the end of this week coming up, there will be 15 line staff hired and start going through the training process. So that way we can move forward to getting people back here and off that 96 hours.
The sheriff in charge right now?
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, what do we want? What's the wishes? Just allow,
Let's just leave it there and then we can
leave
adjust
it
it.
there and
We can
adjust
take
it if we
down.
find it.
We can always lower, we just can't raise.
Yep.
And
Fine with it.
Okay. Anything further?
And like I said, just with the timelines and stuff, I'm going to think between Thursday and Friday, and maybe if it is commission's wishes, we can use the August 1 meeting that we have as another discussion to have on the budget. And if we need to meet on a special day to give preliminary approval, as that's due on August 10th, we can do that as well. And so we'll see how we'll be here over the weekend working on it. So
Well, the one thing I'd like to talk about as a point on the budget for the Heritage Center,
okay.
I would like to look at getting the opinions to have something put into the fund for her to hire a part-time person to help her. Okay, I believe that it's a lot of work for one person and relying on volunteers for her there. I think it would help her and help the city and help the Heritage Center to have another employee added, funding for another employee added.
Are you suggesting like having the city fund that? Or, because organizationally, she has multiple revenue sources, one of them being the city. So it's like the library. If they want to add another person, we fund what we fund and they find the way to, would you like to see more mills go there in general? Just trying to get a broad consensus as to, I mean, maybe not this budget cycle, but maybe something to think about.
Jason asked me about it just prior to the meeting and about that. And maybe just to get something started, like a temporary employee with the funding, maybe I'll use a $5,000 number. Is that what you had in mind or something?
Yeah.
Where she could use it as pay a part-time person to come in and if there's something big going on that she could have some assistance with, I think is what you were mentioning.
Would we have to do that in our, I can ask Mike, I guess, Joel and them are here too, but our temporary account is pretty okay right now because we don't have the temporary employees we normally get every year.
We've been pulling some funds out of it because we've had to hire contractors. So that's kind of where some of that's coming from. So, and within our temporary fund, there's specific sections, specific departments that are putting money into it. So there's the cemetery puts so much money into it. Joel's department puts so much money into it. The street department puts so much money into it. You can look at any number of funds there that are putting money into the temporary employee fund. Because then from that pool, the concept was you're putting money into a pool and then we would move the temporaries wherever they needed to be. The temporaries, when the pool was started, the idea was that the pool of employees would be a pool of employees and not assigned to any one individual department. So sometimes they may be needed out at the lagoon system to do the mowing. Sometimes they may be needed at the water tower, sometimes at the cemetery, sometimes on Highway 2. That was the concept, but it really never got used that way so much. The people at the cemetery stayed at the cemetery, the people that went to the streets stayed at the streets. So, can some of those funds be used eventually, but you would be having the water department pay that temporary employee at this, someplace that had nothing to do with the water department.
Appreciate that, Joel.
I don't know that that's.
I think
Well, I
you were
wasn't
looking
sure.
for discussion on it. And how
Yeah,
it
just
was-
looking for discussion and people's ideas on it.
I think my department puts quite a bit in there and I haven't hired any part-time for a long time. It's hard to because like we discussed, it's hazardous and you have to be over 18 to even do half the things.
But I mean, after, catching up with the meeting you guys had last one and everything, watching that, listening, she would like, help, but, knows that the funds aren't there to do that. And I tell you what, that Heritage Center is a huge asset to the community. And I would like to see, personally, myself, I would like to see if we can find something to assist her with, help. So she doesn't get burnt out.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose her. She's been awesome.
Maybe if we did something, maybe the county would follow in lockstep, maybe. You never know, but
Because she said, when she told me she was relying on volunteers to watch and make sure artifacts weren't being taken from there, I was kind of like, that's kind of hard to.
Yeah. So I think I understand the intent of what you guys would like to see. Right now, just with the timelines that we have for the budget approval, pretty short runway right now. And it's kind of like the conversation we had with the narcotics task force, I think, is we kind of have a direction where we want to see, but we do need to sit down and make sure that all parties and local entities are coordinated and choreographed and on the same page. It seems very similar with this. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll contact the county. I'll have a conversation with Lisa, see how something could work out. If not for this budget cycle, make sure the next one.
Well, even that, I'm not worried about what the county puts in, if we can help we can help Miss Crosby out.
Yeah, because I mean, with the numbers we're looking at, I'm thinking that the little amount that she would need is not gonna.
And it's just, you know, it's an incentive for a volunteer to come in and help out and
Well, and like say, an incentive for a volunteer, would that be something discretionary she could have? It's like, okay, Dale, if you can come in and help me tomorrow, I can compensate you or get you a gift card or whatever the case.
Well,
I
if
don't
you
So-
know.
do it that way, I think you have to kind of declare a person temporary, wouldn't you?
So-
There's FICA and all that kind of stuff that would come out of it.
So, Mayor, members of the commission, from what I'm hearing is, you know, if she's going to get a sustainable employee, and we want the city to be a positive actor in getting that part-time employee, what you would need is, because that employee is going to be here this year, next year, following years probably, and so they're going to need a consistent revenue stream. Right now, we give them 1.5 mils. My best recommendation to address that would be to change their 1.5 mils to give them 2 mils. And with the understanding that they're going to use that half mil for a part-time employee over there. But with that, right now, you know, we are running a minus, you know, $100,000 intentionally, given the big cushion we have in the general fund and trying to keep property taxes flat. It would probably entail raising the property taxes just a little bit, maybe a half mil to a mil. And so that for this budget cycle, unless you want to run a little further into the red, I don't know, I would advise that, but definitely at the direction of commission, we're going to do whatever you guys want to see.
that's a lot easier to explain to, you know, the community if we had to go up a half to a mil with that, you know, versus something else is why we're doing that.
To execute what I think the vision that you guys are looking at, that's administratively the best recommendation I have at the moment, given the runway that we have. Maybe we can work out a temporary situation for 2023 and find something a little bit more sustainable here for 2024 and moving beyond. Let me report back to you on
I
that.
appreciate it, because, you know, my view is you don't take care of the employees, they quit the leadership, they don't quit the job. You know, and
No, I don't think anybody here is arguing. with
No,
the
I'm just-
fact that
yeah, I'm
that was
just giving my-
necessary.
yeah.
So,
Just so you guys know, dollar amount is, I think, because one of the desires, I think, is to long-term sustainable solutions to things and not one-off things during the year, and then you play catch-up going on. It's that half mil increase. Right now, a mil is about $20,000, so that would put an additional about 10 grand into their budget. So,
I think there are times when she could probably use the additional assistance with things, but, you know, putting on a major event like an art festival too, that kind of could use some help on that. But
And
no,
they've been bringing up a lot of events lately too.
Yeah.
and,
no, I guess consideration to it is definitely warranted. So.
Okay. And Mayor, members of the commission, I regret I didn't say this earlier, in our enterprise fund, as far as the sanitation rates and the projected revenues, as part of the projected revenue is a $1 increase in the base rate fee. And talking with folks with more institutional knowledge here, it's kind of, you know, every other year or every year you kind of just bump it up a little bit. That way we don't hold off. Then all of a sudden 5 years you have a $5 increase, which comes as a little bit of a shock to everybody. So as part of the revenues, that's what we have in there, effective 2023.
Okay.
So right now it's 12. It'd be recommended to move it to 13.
And we
So
usually have a meeting for rates and fees at some point.
Yeah, a lot of times we do that coincide along with the budget. The rates and fees set for 2023, they don't have to be approved until basically December 31st, right, to take effect. So we'll probably bring rates and fees to you later on in the year, just as I would like to have a more thorough overview of them. But for now, just so you know, in the projected revenues for the sanitation department is that $1 increase.
Spend it wisely.
Don't look at me.
Anything further to come before on the budget or?
Yeah, and I'll be in conversation with you guys throughout the end of the week as far as progress, given the conversation we've had today and a couple of tweaks that we need to make here in the enterprise fund, as well as continuing to work the general fund to get in a good long-term spot. I'll send an email out and maybe we should just have August 1 as a discussion. We'll have maybe towards the end of the agenda, we'll put budget discussion. And then if we need to call a special meeting between August 1 and August 10th to approve it, then we can do so.
Thank you, Spencer.
Can I ask about the SCADA? We're waiting for funding for the software update up at the plant.
Yes, when in visiting with the engineering firm, it seemed to make sense to hold off and do that skate upgrade as part of at least the design associated with the potential booster station.
That, is there a time frame on it? It will be next year?
You're looking at it quarterly, so hopefully we'll get it through the water commission in the next handful of months.
Reason being is,
I have a couple of tweaks I need to make to the enterprise funds already, and I think we'll have that conversation. If we need to make an additional change, we'll do that, and I'll brief it on August 1 for you guys.
It's like a $50,000 uptick.
Okay, so that's the conversation we'll have offline.
Okay, we have one actionable item that we need to address from the North Dakota Department of Transportation. Mike, if you would be so kind to update us.
In front of you are a couple of change orders for work on the College Drive Highway 19 project. That's something that we discussed at the commission level in the past. There's two change orders. The reason why there's two change orders is in the Department of Transportation world, there's the Highway 20, that's College Drive. That's a project. Another project is Highway 19. That's a separate highway. That's a separate project, even though it was bid as one project, there's different project numbers. And that's why there's two different change orders, because they track costs associated with work on Highway 19 as well as the work that's on Highway 20. So the work, the change order addresses removing competing microsurfacing on Highway 20, College Drive, as well as Highway 19. With that, we're removing some of the inlaid tape work. That's the deducts that you're seeing on the change order. And then we're adding the costs associated with doing the 2-inch mill and overlay. So if you look at the total cost of the first change order that's associated with College Drive, the net increase is $192,099.83. On the second page, I highlighted, of that, 50% is the Department of Transportation responsibility, 50% the city. And of the city, 50%, the city locally is responsible for 19.07% of that. The other funds come out our urban roads funding out of Bismarck. So the net impact that where we have to come up with the cash with the first change order is about $36,633.44. So with the first change order for the work on College Drive, I recommend approval so that we can improve College Drive, one of the busiest roadways that we have in town.
Make a motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hamry to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Pierce. Any further discussion? None being, roll call.
Commissioner Hamry.
Aye.
Commissioner Hash.
Aye.
Commissioner Robbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce.
Aye.
President Mount.
Aye.
Very similar items on Highway 19 change order here. You have some deduct there associated with some of the work that we're not going to be doing. And then you have costs associated with completing the mill and overlay. The net increase is $63,810.77, of which the city is responsible for 50%, but of our 50%, 19.07% will be actual cash that we're talking about that we have to come up with. That's $12,168.71. Of course, these are estimates. Once you complete the project, you have actual installed quantities, and that's going to be the dollar amount. So in total, we're looking at about a $50,000 local increase. But we're, rather than just getting a little surface treatment, we're grinding the top asphalt off and getting another mat on there, which is going to be very beneficial for that work. Recommend approval of second change order.
I'll make a motion to approve Mike's second recommendation.
Commissioner Robbins, approve motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hatch. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hamry.
Aye.
Commissioner Hash.
Aye.
Commissioner Robbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce.
Aye.
President Mount.
Aye. No other business come before us. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Here.